name is Jess and welcome back to my channel. Today I have something a little bit different for you. I really wanted to do a Q&A video. I haven't done one of these before apart from like the set question tags that I've done on this channel. I found Q&As really interesting and yeah, just a nice way to kind of get to know someone more. So unfortunately I didn't have a video last week. I actually lost my SD card, which I'm so annoyed about. It has actually got some other photos on there that I would like back, and it also had my April sewing plans video on there. To be fair, this month is really, there's nothing new. The only new thing was the marigold, which is the Sew My Style pattern for April. So I wasn't really going to film that one again because the rest is just finishing off projects that I am like halfway through or I have cut out and I haven't started yet. So instead of doing that, I thought I'd do this Q&A. I put a little shout out on my Instagram yesterday for some questions, and I have quite a few good questions. They're not sort of just, you know, general what's your favourite colour kind of questions. They are sort of more in-depth questions, so I'm really excited to get into those for you today. I had them on my phone, so if you see me looking down, that's why. But I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I'm just going to jump straight in. Okay, so the first question is from Steph from Howlin' Lamb, and she asks, would love to know how you get your motivation back when you're tired or bored of sewing. I go through this so much with sewing. I don't know if it's so much because I'm tired or bored of it, but just because I have so much overwhelm when it comes to all of the sewing I want to get done. But my biggest thing is if I'm a little bit bored or a little bit tired is to go back to one of my tried and true patterns, something that's easy, something that I know fits me well, and make one of those, because to be honest, once you've made that, you know, it's a quick project, you know your fit is correct with it, you don't have to go through all the fitting issues and all of that. That will honestly get your motivation back massively. I always find that if I'm just overwhelmed or just bored of sewing or, you know, not falling out of love with it, but just not as into it as I usually am, I always go back to a tried and true pattern and give that one a go. So the next one is from Romy. I hope that's how you pronounce it, I'm sorry. From Romy.Kate. Have you ever been to the UK or would you like to? And how do you stop your fabric stash getting out of control? Do you limit yourself on how much fabric you can buy? Okay, so in answer to the first question, no, I haven't been to the UK, and yes, I would love to go to the UK. However, I do have anxiety and I don't know whether I could actually physically do it at this point in time. Also, we don't have any money, so that's a big issue. But yes, I would certainly love to come to the UK. And I'd love to do it at a time when there's something like the knitting stitching show on or something where I could do a little meetup and meet so many of my UK sewing friends, because I have so many of them on Instagram and it'd be so nice to meet you guys in real life. How do I stop my fabric stash from getting out of control? That is something I haven't done up until this year. This year we are on some pretty tight money constraints because I left my full-time job. So I don't have that consistent income. I'm getting an income every week, but it's not as consistent as it was last year, obviously. So we actually don't have any money for me to buy fabric, so that's a big thing. This year I have limited myself on what I'm buying, so I've stopped going to Spotlight. That's a big thing. So I think if you have like a big chain fabric store near you that you go into all the time, just stop going. Like, that has made such a difference, because I would go in there for like thread, and then I would come out with like 5 or 6 remnant pieces, which are cheap, but by the time you add all of that up, it actually does get quite expensive. So I've actually been into Spotlight I think once or twice this year, and that is it. I haven't used any of the vouchers. I'm also doing that because I want to try and support independent a lot more this year, but also by stopping going into the actual shop, I have cut down massively on my fabric consumption in terms of purchasing. So yeah, that's probably my biggest thing. If you do go into shops and that, just don't. For me, there are some good fabric stores to buy from in Australia, but you know, the shipping and all of that. So I always want to make sure that if I'm buying something online, I'm not I don't buy it quite as quickly as I probably would have if I went into Spotlight. You know, I have to think about it, I have to factor in the shipping, you know, I really want to know what I'm going to use it for. So for me, buying fabric online is a lot better because I have to think about it a lot more, and I'm not generally just going in and doing those like quick last minute purchases. I have thought about it for a while, so that's probably my biggest tip. Sandy from So What's Fabulous asks, how did you become involved with the Sew My Style 2018 and how do you choose the monthly patterns? So I think I spoke about this a little bit in my introduction to Sew My Style 2018, which I did in December last year. So I got involved with Sew My Style because I was asked by Alex from Bluebird Fabrics to be a leader for it last year. So that's kind of how I got involved in it. And then she couldn't take it on again this year, and she asked if anyone was willing to take it on or anyone wanted to continue it, and I put my hand up and said yes, because I think it was such a fantastic idea, and I knew that it could grow to be something really special. So in terms of the monthly patterns, that was a little bit hard. This because I took it over very, very close to the end of the year, so we only had about 2 or 3 weeks to kind of get it sorted. So it was a bit of a rush. And we're all in different time zones. I'm in Australia and the rest of the girls are in Europe, or in the US. So time difference was a really, really hard thing for us. But in terms of patterns, we kind of worked out what categories we wanted for each month. So, you know, we wanted a coat, we wanted a dress, we wanted pants, we wanted a bag, we wanted some lingerie. So we kind of worked out those first. And then we went through the feedback that came back from last year and picked out all of the patterns from there and put it into a spreadsheet, put them in the different categories, and then we went through and chose the ones that we thought would be more suitable, good for trans-seasonal, and yeah, something that we thought a lot of people would like. So that's kind of how we did it. Again, like I said, we only had like 2 weeks to do this, so it was a little bit hectic. Next year I have more ideas and we'll have a better plan in place. But yeah, I think we did pretty well this year actually. We have got some really good ones on there. People have been loving them so far, and I have been loving seeing everyone's variations. Emmy Lulu from Emmy Lulu Design asks, how did you start Little Miss Lorraine and what are the biggest challenges you faced with it? So for those of you who don't know, Little Miss Lorraine is my online handmade store. It's something that I have had with my old boss slash co-worker and my friend Joy. I had the idea of starting an online store when I first started sewing, but I was too scared to put my stuff out there. I wasn't sure it was good enough, and I just started and I didn't know how to do it. Oh, excuse the lighting. So yeah, I kind of had wanted to do it for ages, and then Joy had been going through some stuff at her house and she had some vintage stuff she wanted to sell of her mum. So we thought we would open an Etsy store and just sell some stuff on there. I came up with the name Little Miss Lorraine. It's a name that I'd had picked out for my online store anyway, and as Joy's very much a silent partner, she was quite happy to go with that one. So initially it was just selling some vintage really pretty teacups and stuff like that on Etsy. And then one Christmas we decided we'd start adding some Christmas decorations, some handmade ones, which went really well. And then yeah, I just kind of started adding some homewares, some cushion covers, and yeah, it's sort of grown from there. And this year hopefully we're going to see quite a bit of growth with Little Miss Lorraine now that I'm home. We're changing things up a little bit. I'm adding a women's wear range and kind of backing down on the home decor because the demand is definitely with the women's clothing. I've had people asking me for it for years, so I think it's probably about time I start listening to them. In terms of the biggest challenges that we face with that, I guess it's hard. The industry is very saturated, and I think if I had started selling things online when I originally wanted to start selling things, that probably would have been a little bit better, and we would have been in that first wave of kind of handmade makers in Australia. But yeah, there's so much competition out there, and it can be really hard to kind of get your name out there. We are doing a few more markets, and yeah, it's hard. It's hard to price things appropriately. It's hard to work out your time, it's hard to work out what's going to be good. For us, we want to stay true to ourselves, but obviously we also want to appease our customers, and I think that's a really hard balance and a really hard sort of thing. So our goods are bespoke, so we do one of a kind or limited quantity. So they're not mass produced, and that's how we like it, but it does mean that sometimes that can put people off a little bit because we only have a pattern in one size, or yeah, it's sort of just trying to stay true to ourselves while also meeting customer demand. That's another really, really hard part of owning a handmade business. Heavenbound 7217 asks, what do you do with your fabric leftovers? This is a really interesting question, and this is a topic that has come up in a couple of sewing groups that I'm in on Facebook recently. I didn't realise, but you can actually donate them to some charities, and they will use them for like scrap bags to sell, so it's sort of good for them. I know that in the UK and that you can take your scraps, I think, to H&M, and they'll give you tokens to use in store. I'm not sure if anywhere in Australia does that. For me personally, I've started collecting my fabric scraps, and I'll probably use them to make, to stuff in some ottomans or like dog beds and that sort of thing. Anything that requires the stuffing, it sort of makes it a lot hardier but still soft and squishy. So yeah, I do keep all of my fabric leftovers apart from the very small, very scrappy things that, yeah, like selvages and stuff like that. But yeah, most of the time I do keep it. I need to actually put it into a bigger bag now because it's getting out of control. But yeah, I don't like to just chuck it in the bin anymore. I'm very conscious about that. So if I can't use the smaller scraps for something like a clutch or something small like that, I will just keep them, and I will eventually stuff them into something. And lastly, my gorgeous friend Maddie from A Bohemian or 40 and Flying. So she asks, how do you find the motivation to fuel all your ideas and keep yourself accountable? Also, which of your many interests is your favourite, and what would you like to be doing in 2 years' time? Okay, so in terms of how do I find the motivation to fuel all my ideas and keep myself accountable, I don't know how I find the motivation to do them. I think I just really want to give them a go. This year, I've said it a few times, is kind of my year for trying things out. So, you know, I might start a couple of things or introduce a couple of things here and then. If they don't work, that's okay. But in my mind, if you don't try something, how are you ever going to know whether it's going to work or not? So yeah, apart from doing Little Miss Lorraine, I also have my online virtual assistant business, Lorraine Virtual, which is sort of my main source of income. So I help small businesses and creatives with their websites, general administration, social media, that sort of thing. I've also just started an online magazine and resource hub called the Handmade Collective, which is something I'm really passionate about. I think that's how I find the motivation, is because I'm really passionate about all of the things that I do. So I'm passionate about providing people with good customer service and helping them build their businesses through Lorraine Virtual. I'm passionate about providing good quality handmade goods to customers, and plus it's my sort of creative outlet. I love that part of it. And I'm also passionate about supporting handmade in Australia. Obviously I'm supportive of handmade everywhere in the world, but I feel like in Australia we don't cheer them on enough. So I have started an online resource hub and magazine, like I said, called the Handmade Collective, which celebrates Australian small handmade business. So that will hopefully be launching winter 2018 at some point. I'm not exactly sure when, but yeah, that one is really, really exciting. I also had thought about opening an online haberdashery store, and I did up a logo for it and I started an Instagram for it, but in reality that one's probably not going to happen, just because that does require a lot of outlay and a lot of time, and I'm not entirely sure it's the path that I want to take. So I think I have all of this motivation for everything, but if something doesn't work, I'm learning just to let it go, and I tried it and it didn't happen, so that's all good. And I'm trying to just focus on things that I'm really, really passionate about, because if you're really, really passionate about something like sewing, that's why I still make these videos, even though I'm really busy, because I love it and I love sewing. It's a massive part of my life. So yeah, I think that's how I find the motivation to kind of do everything. I to be fair, I actually experience a large amount of overwhelm, and I think that's kind of something to do with my anxiety. So there are days where I just can't do it and I don't have the motivation, and those days Kenneth is the most amazingly supportive partner who pushes me through because he knows that I'm passionate about it and he knows that I really want to do it. But yeah, I do have quite a few days of overwhelm, so it's not all rosy and that as it may seem on social media. So yeah, I do have some really down days, but overall, because I'm so passionate about them, that's how I stay motivated. Which of my interests is my favourite? My favourite interest is sewing. So anything to do with sewing is pretty much up there with me. I love obviously doing my Lorraine Virtual things, and I love helping small businesses. But that does also require a lot of time in front of the screen, a lot of time on the computer, a lot of like using my brain, which is amazing, but it does make me quite tired, especially if I'm doing quite a lot of websites at once. So for me, sewing is just my creative outlet. Making stuff for Little Miss Lorraine isn't a chore because I enjoy sewing and I don't pressure myself to make things for it. It's just when I get a chance, I make things. With Jessica Lorraine, I've had to kind of let go a little bit this year. If I don't make a video, that's okay. If I don't post on the blog for a while, that's okay. If I don't have stuff on social media for a while, that's okay. It used to really bother me, but this year I'm learning that I really, really love sewing and I want it to be something that I enjoy for years to come. So I need to back off on the pressure and just let it be a fun thing that I enjoy, which I'm really, really excited about. I love sewing. I love the sewing community. I love making things for myself. I love the satisfaction that comes from making things. So yeah, sewing is definitely my favourite interest. What would I like to be doing in 2 years' time? That's a really interesting question. I think I'll probably have a child by then, so things will be a little bit crazier. But I would like to probably have established what I really, really, really want to do, and have things set up. So in my mind at the moment, it would be still having my 4 things, so Little Miss Lorraine, my virtual assistant business, the online magazine, and also Jessica Lorraine, but maybe having a few more people helping out with the magazine, possibly not having so many virtual assistant clients, but just a few more longer term clients that I can rely on income from, and so that way I don't have to have so many little ones. Little Miss Lorraine is my secondary income. I'd love to add a couple of other Australian handmade stores to Little Miss Lorraine as well, just to kind of fill the gaps where we don't make stuff. And hopefully in 2 years I'll be more established in all my businesses, and yeah, I'll have a bit more of a flow and a bit more of this is exactly what I want to be doing, and maybe not adding on anything else at this point in time, because I think this is enough for now. So thanks again for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next week. Bye!